Greetings, Nimrod. So before we start this video on the progressive 336 machine startup, and we're going to drill a hole in the bench, sprayed it down to keep it wet so the smoking hole saw bit doesn't light the whole shed on fire. You can read about that in the paper if that happens. The reason I'm doing this is I used to put a bin back here and it just fills up too quickly and jams up the machine. And it's also a pain in the ass to pull the bin back around when it's all full of holes. So we're dropping them into the drawer that's in the below the counter here. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. Cut a little riser at an angle. So once we set this up, we'll get into starting up the, in this case it's a Pacific 336 progressive reloader, and it is the same machine as the Hornady 336 that they market now. I guess Pacific originally made it and they must have bought them out. Okay, so gotta find a shotgun shell to test this out with. Our special guest cameraman Bubba Alamo looking for a shotgun shell. Got one, Bubba. Alright, through the miracle of editing, it works perfectly. Alright, here we go. So, starting up the process, first thing you have to do is drop some primers down the tube, load up the tube with primers, put an empty hull in there, and primers are key here. You got to make sure they're dropping. And with this machine, that is sort of the weak link in it. That they do have a finicky primer drop tube. At least I find that to be the case. So we got one in the priming station now, and that's going to be setting the primer on the stroke. And of course, still dropping a primer and moving it over in that position to set the primer, put a new hull in. Now, at this point, I've got to turn on the powder. Okay. So the powder's on. Now I'm gonna, on the next downstroke, that powder will drop into the first hull we loaded. We're rotating through the cycle here, and now we've got to put a wad in, a little wad holder there, and put an empty hull in. And now we're gonna drop down, drops the primer, moves over, puts the empty hole in the priming position. Now that first hole we started is in the shot position. It has a wad in it. I'll show you two angles there. Turn the shot on. So in this one, everything's going to be happening here. We're going to get putting a wad in, put a primer down, and that should have dropped the shot in there. We'll take a look, see if we can sneak the camera back there. And yes. So now everything is happening. Everything is on and everything is happening. We'll still go slow until the carousel there is completely full. Once you get going, you'll get some rhythm, but it does help to have the carousel full, or else it's a little herky-jerky. So the key thing with this machine is, see right there, the primer did not drop. Now they're funny like that. All that rubber band wrapped around the end of the primer drop tube is there because they drop too readily through that plastic piece. It's supposed to be putting pressure on it, and when it pushes down, it opens up and drops the primer. But it works well in the winter, but in the summer, the plastic is too soft, and I have to put that rubber band on there to make it work properly. It's the one part about the machine that is finicky. So you really have to watch that primer tube. Make sure that you're dropping a primer every time, because that's when messes happen. And again, backing this thing up kind of stinks. To start this whole process over again, and backing it up and cleaning it up and everything, it turns into a good 20-minute process at least. So we're fully operational here. So we'll pick up a little steam here. I'm only doing a few, maybe a box of shells here, just because it's not necessarily a new recipe. It's the same powder drop as I always do, but I found a recipe that uses some wads that I had. Are not my normal wads. There's some wads that came with a reloader I bought a while ago, and turns out that it will work with the same recipe, the same shot charge, same powder charge as what this machine is set up for. But I'm only doing a box just to see how they work before I go crazy on this. Instead of loading a bunch of bad shells fast, I think they'll be fine because it's not a big change, and it is a published data, so I'm not worried about making something that's not going to work. But just in case, just to be safe, we're gonna wait till we test these before we really go crazy here and load up cases. As you can see, it speeds up once you get some rhythm going. I think you can do about 3 minutes per box with this machine. Alright, so now we're going to break it down. So presumably you do this once you're out of primers. So I'm in that station. You're going to turn off the powder. That was the last powder drop. Put a wad in there. So I'm dropping primers now to take those out, but all right, don't need that. Now we're going to drop the last charge of shot, and now we got to turn that shot off. And you forget to do this, and you will know about it. So there we go. Now we just cycle the last couple of shells through the crimping stations and drop them down into our drawer. So hopefully you like this video and like it and share it with your reloading social media friends. And remember, Nimrod wants you to subscribe. So subscribe. Happy hunting, Nimrods. Hey, that drawer worked. Look at that.